Well, kids, welcome to another episode of Rimshots. Just Sean, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk, and we finally got it done. We're here. Yeah, after some flipping and flopping and moving around, I've got Damon Johnson from the band Brother Kane. He's in. Where are you right now? Tell my viewers.
I am in St. Augustine, Florida, just
And
tiny bit south of Jacksonville.
okay, and you, we had to move some stuff around because tell them they'll love to know.
Well, yeah, as some of your listeners will know, I've been playing in Lyrnyrd Skynyrd for the last 3 years, and tonight and tomorrow night are big shows because it's right here in the original band's hometown of Jacksonville. Johnny Van Zandt, of course, also from Jacksonville. Ricky Medlock from Jacksonville. So yeah, so it was a last minute sound check call that was going to interfere with your and my interview, but thank goodness, man, it all worked out. So it's good to talk to you, Sean.
Yeah, you as well, Damon. And so, I guess out of curiosity, you've been playing with them for a while. So, what does that mean for Brother Kane? You kind of fitting that through the cracks? How you making that happen?
We're fitting that through the cracks. I mean, I can say honestly, I don't think there would be this reformation of Brother Kane had it not been for Skinnerd.
Interesting.
Uh, yeah, Brother Kane had just I had put it on a shelf, just all with love and gratitude. You know, I've kept in touch with all the original guys. I play those songs, some of those songs whenever I go out and do solo stuff. If my power trio goes out, we enjoy playing Got No Shame and Full Shine On, a couple of those songs. Um, but once I started playing with Skinner back in 2021, Sean, is when we started getting a lot of fans coming up. Like I'd be at the hotel with Skinner, and some fan would come over and go, "Hey, man, we love Brother Kane too. Don't forget that band." Um, or hey, I saw Brother Kane open for Van Halen in '95, or my wife and I got married to this song, that kind of stuff. So it
But
was my manager Kevin who was traveling with me on one of those Skinner weekends, and there were three or four people that would come up and talk about Brother Kane, and so we got together for coffee the next week, and he kind of put it forward. He said, "Hey, let's talk about this." And at that time, I had just put out a really smoking solo record with my trio to get ready called Battle Lessons. And we were all expecting that Gary Rosington was going to fully recover, get healthy, come back to the band, that's his band. He started that band, he's led that band certainly for the last 35 years since they reunited the tribute band. And things didn't work out that way. So I had already started moving this Brother Kane idea forward with Kevin. And then, of course, we lost Gary in March of this year. And, it was an honor for the band and Gary's family to ask me if I would continue to play his parts and fill that spot on the stage. And a huge honor for me. Um, and of course, I said yes. And so that's a long-winded answer to your question, Sean. So we'd already moved Brother Kane forward, reissuing the debut record for the first time ever on vinyl, and a couple new songs. So yes, we got to make this Brother Kane stuff work in between the Skynyrd schedule.
well, and I will say you're in a great spot because I play in a band here in Halifax, and you're on stage and you hear "Play Freebird." Well, you actually get to play Freebird so, with the band, right? So that's a good spot to be in.
You can imagine what it's like for me, a kid from Alabama that grew up loving Skynyrd from the time I was in the sixth grade. I was 12 years old. Uh, that was when I first discovered really those records. I mean, Sweet Home Alabama had already been out for a couple years, but I was finally getting old enough to start to pay attention. And so, to fall in love with rock and roll, fall in love with that band, get a guitar, start a band, start learning those songs, and later grow up, become a professional, have my own career. You just can't write a story like this, really.
Well, and I'd like you to weigh in on this for a second, because one of the topics that's coming up with my podcast guests and within a group that I have is the piece around networking, right? So I've had certain people on that have been guys such as yourself, like myself, that wind up with these heavy hitters, and the story's always the same. It's the networking piece. It's the get around people that are at that level, be the good person, be the good hang, and get the gig. Is that how you got this gig, or how did it come about for you?
I guess the short answer to that is yes. But I will say, I was never, ever one of those guys that was always gunning for a better gig or trying to schmooze up to somebody. Hey, man, here's my number. Keep me in mind. Never, ever, 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 Sean. I would just happen to be in the room with my own band. You know, I met Ricky Medlock when Brother Kane opened for Blackfoot in 1993. You know, 4 months later, we go on the road with the tribute band, you know, the tribute version of Skynyrd. So I met
Right.
Johnny Van Zandt, Ed King, Gary Rosington, all those people, man. And, you know, it never occurred to me that they would need somebody to fill a spot, you know, 30 years later. But I would always be friendly, and I would always, as a fan, say hello, you know, tell them how much I love the music. And, you know, Gary answered all my nerdy guitar questions, and same with Medlock. And look, the Skinner thing is really unique too, because Ricky Medlock and I, we became like brothers
Mm-hmm.
in 1993 when Blackfoot had Brother Kane on two of their dates in Texas. I didn't expect any of that. I didn't expect him to give me his phone number, which he did. He's like, "Hey, buddy, I like what you're doing. Keep in touch." And so I did. And then he joined Skinner 3 years later. And anytime they'd come through Birmingham, which is where I lived for the longest time, you know, I'd go see him. I had him over for dinner with my family a couple times, that kind of stuff. And then after Brother King broke up in 2000, you know, Ricky always kept in touch, wanted to know what I was doing, what new music I was making, what new songs I was writing. So I would just send him stuff just as a friend,
Mm-hmm.
never, ever, ever thinking, oh, I got to stay in touch with Ricky Medlock. You never know. The phone might, he may need somebody one day. I never thought about it like that, man. I don't know. I felt pretty secure as my own artist and my own writer, and just I was doing my own thing. So yeah, if you just keep working, I think more than networking, in my opinion, I think it's better to just keep working, writing, recording, playing shows, being out there. I don't care how big it is or how small it is. Just keep doing it, man. And when a band like Skinner or a Foreigner, you know, some of these bigger bands that have had some member changes, you know, they're going to be looking for a pro to step into those spots. They're not just going to call a buddy from high school
Right.
that plays the songs in some cover band. They want a guy that's been on the big stage. He's got his shit together. He's got his gear together. He's got his whole vibe together. And yeah, the hang. The hang is important, like you said, Sean. Uh, you know, and I think that was the other thing that they were just so relieved with when I stepped in 3 years ago, because I didn't come in making a lot of noise and asking a lot of questions. I was very respectful of the whole band, especially to Gary and Dale, his wife, and their family. Because they're, I don't know, man, kind of a spiritual component to this whole Skinner thing for me. And I know it is for their fans. So the thing I'm the most grateful for is that the band and the families have embraced me. And more importantly, the fans have embraced me because they feel that respect. They feel that humility, man. I'm not going to get out there and be showboating and jumping around and, hey, look at me, look at me. That's why I got Brother Kane, man. I can do
Yeah.
that.
There you go. Right.
when,
That'll
when I need more attention, then I'll get in the Suburban and put the gear in the trailer. Like, let's go, guys. Let's go play. Let's get our
absolutely.
ego straight. Yeah.
Look, we're going to take our first break. We're here with Damon Johnson from Brother Cave, from Skinner, and we're going to be back with Rimshots after this. Well, welcome back to Rimshots with Sean. I'm here with Damon Johnson, and You mentioned Ricky giving you your phone number, his phone number. You gave me yours, and it stays with me, it dies with me. I don't give those things away. I'm very respectful about that. But Blackfoot to me was always a band. They almost kind of for me were like Thin Lizzy band. Everybody knew, but it was kind of like, and they had this cult following, and they should have been a lot bigger, and they just never were. But everybody knows them, everybody respects them, everybody thinks they're amazing. Is that a fair statement?
A fair statement. And you know what's wild about that statement, Sean, is that is word for word also what people say about Brother Kane.
Well, there you go.
Everybody knew about Brother Kane. We were a staple at rock radio between 93 and 99. You could not go 3 or 4 hours and not hear a Brother Kane song. That entire period, man. And I don't know, maybe in a weird way, that's something that kind of unites Ricky and I as well. Um, I know when he and I met in 93, Blackfoot had already been through a bunch of member changes. There'd been the usual chaos, man. Somebody's got a drug problem, or somebody's on the booze, or somebody's got their nose out of joint about money, and it just gets to be hard work. And so I know for Ricky, it was a real kind of fortuitous moment for Rosington to call him in '96 and say, "Hey, man, we're making some changes, and I'd like for you to come and play guitar." So I know Ricky can appreciate all the stories that I have. When he asked me about Brother Kane, he said it himself. He's like, "Yeah, buddy, we've both been a similar path, and then this is all crazy. Now here we are together in Skinner in 2023."
Incredible. And it's funny because when Michelle initially sent me the email and said, "Look, do you want to talk to Damon?" And I was like, "Brother Kane, I know that." And then I was like, "Oh my God, yeah, I know that band, absolutely." And but to be honest with you, I wasn't cluing into the whole Skinner connection. I wasn't cluing into your solo career. Um, but obviously, the work that you did then puts you on the radar for a bunch of people to say, "Hey, Damon, we got a spot. We need help. Can you come out and see us?"
100%, Sean. And that ties into what we were talking about earlier. I think all of those are, those big, you can almost look at it like driving a railroad stake, into the ground. Every one of those big licks of those efforts that I was making, it was all making a difference. All of it made a difference. You cannot convince me that those solo records did not have a huge impact on having two big time, classic rock musicians like Johnny Van Zandt and Ricky Medlock to call me. Because it kept me on Ricky's mind, kept me on Johnny's mind. And, when Johnny called Ricky and said, "Who are we going to get?" And Ricky goes, "I know the guy, if he's available, is Damon." And Johnny was almost like, "Oh, we're not going to get Damon. He's gonna be too busy. He's not going to have time for us," because they knew I was working. And look, and I was working. And I was very fulfilled with what I was doing. Um, I guess I've just kind of taken that fulfillment and fanned it out, a little bigger. And, you know, I'm really grateful. I feel like my cup runneth over with,
Well,
musical fulfillment between, a band that's had such a huge influence on my songwriting and my guitar playing. And at the same time, I can keep writing and making records, making recordings, and doing my own thing as well.
Um, but it's got to be a pretty good feeling for you to know. I mean, ability aside, because you don't get a gig by being a three chord wonder and that's all you can play. Obviously, the ability's there, but it's got to be a good feeling that they go, "That guy, we want him around. He's a good fella. We want him around because he's not going to be a problem. He's going to do the gig. He's going to be a pro." That's going to be pretty fulfilling for you.
I believe that's how they feel. I hope that's how they feel. They sure do treat me like that's how they feel. So yeah, I had to kind of pivot with my plan. My wife and I, my manager and I were always talking about the next 12 months, the next 2 years, the next 5 years. What are we doing? Well, this has changed those conversations somewhat, but um, The other thing too, I think, is that this band has been through so much over the 50 years that since Skynyrd started, you just can't really count on anything. You never know what's going to happen. You never know. Johnny could wake up tomorrow and go, "Hey, you know what? It's been awesome. Uh, I want to peel it back. I'm ready to spend time with my grandkids and not do, not go out there and hit it like this." He's certainly entitled to that, but he's sure not acting like that's what he wants, man. The band sounds great. We're firing on all cylinders, and I think there's part of him and some of the other guys in their management are like, yeah, we were very concerned about the future when Gary's health took a turn for the worse, and so again, with Gary's family's blessing and the fans, who knows, Sean? This thing could carry on for another 3 or 4 years.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought I saw a thing in, it might have been Blabbermouth, and you gotta take that sometimes for what it's worth. But where he said that you guys might go back in the studio and do some new music. Am I misreading that, or?
Something, he may have said that in an interview. I can tell you there's not been one word of that discussed in the band, in rehearsals, or the van to the venue, or the hotels, or any of that kind of stuff.
Well,
But
surprise! No, it's kidding.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, but look, that's all part of it, man. New music is fulfilling for the musicians in any band, and the new music gives you something brand new to talk about when you got another tour coming up. I learned that from Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper doesn't need any new songs. He's going to go out there and do his 90-minute show, and he's going to play $1 Billion Babies and School's Out, and No More Mr. Nice Guy, and Poison. And it's just like Skynyrd. It's just like any of these legacy acts, man, that have been very fortunate to have big songs in their careers. But everybody in the bands get a little fatigued on playing the same stuff all the
Sure,
time. So
sure.
it'd be fun. And listen, that would be just a blast to write some songs with Johnny, write with Ricky. You can bet, man, I'd show up with a bunch of ideas if that opportunity ever arose.
Awesome. We're going to take one more break here, my good friend, my new friend. It's always nice, the beautiful thing about doing this little podcast, and this kind of started out of it was a COVID thing. Like I'm a musician myself, and I couldn't play. I'll talk to some of my musician friends, and I figured, at 5 weeks I'll be back at it, and here we are 3 years later. But it's so cool to meet guys such as yourself because everybody gets to see, hey, you're down to earth. You just have a different gig than other people. So we're going to be back after this. All right, welcome back to Rimshots with Sean. I'm in here with Damon Johnson. So we covered Skynyrd. I guess the last piece because I want to spend time in this last segment on Brother Kane because I think it's really cool that where you're fitting it in through the cracks, you're still going to be doing some stuff with that. But last thing with Skynyrd, you said it could go on a couple, three, whatever. That's a smoking band. There's some heavy hitters in that band, right? Just give a shout out to the guys that you haven't mentioned that are part of that operation.
Yeah, man. So Peter Keys has been the piano player ever since Billy Powell passed away in the early 2000s. Sparky Mark Matega has been on the Stratocaster. Actually, he's been here a little longer than Peter has. Monster Telecaster, Stratocaster, fiery, kind of came more from the Texas country background. He's one of the best guitar players I've ever heard, much less been in a band with. Michael Cartellone, my longtime friend,
Damn Yankees, yes, sir.
super pro, one of the sweetest human beings that has ever walked this planet. I love him so much. We got the great Keith Christopher on bass. I've known about Keith my whole life. Keith is from Atlanta originally, and Keith Christopher he was the founder of the Georgia Satellites,
Ah, nice.
but he had moved on to do other things sometime before that record of theirs came out, whatever that was, 86, 87, with the big hit. So but he's played with a lot of heavy cats, man, a lot of Texas country guys, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, the list goes on and on. Monster band. um and it's just I don't know, maybe it puts a different spring in my step, Sean, to know that I've arrived at this place in my late 50s that, I could become a member of an outfit like this with, legacy musicians, legacy songs, total pros in every position. Uh, this thing is for sure firing on all cylinders. And, we're kind of already looking at next year. We did a package with ZZ Top this year that was
Oh,
incredible. We're going to extend that into 2024. So, you know, and my family and I and my manager Kevin, we're waiting to get that schedule so we can go, all right, so this is what that looks like. So
right.
let's book some Brother Kane dates. That's the other thing that's great, man. Look, Skinner's not out there doing 100 shows a year like Alice Cooper. I don't think any of us want to do 100 shows a year. I like having that balance of having a great band like Skinner be a part of my schedule, get the fulfillment as an artist, continue to be an artist that I've been for 30 years, with my own songwriting and singing, and the balance of having time at home with my family. Um, there's a great lyric by my favorite songwriter, Jason Isbell, from
Ah,
a record he put out about 5 years ago. It says, "I thought the highway loved me, but it beat me like a drum." That's
love it.
that's that's a story of my life, man.
Yeah.
I remember in my 20s and 30s, it's like, oh, this is going to be my life forever. You get your ass kicked with that sooner or later, and I'm just grateful for the balance now. And here we are talking about Brother Kane, and all the stuff that's happening with that.
Good segue. It's like we rehearsed this because I was just about to say, as you go into that, Skinner, you're part of a big machine. So there's obviously, the Van Zants and those they, more or less run the show. I'm not going to say you're a hired gun, but you're in there as part of a unit. You go to Brother
I'm a
Kane. Okay, fair enough.
I'm a
But
hired gun.
great movie, by the way, and you could relate to that. But so now you go into Brother Kane and you're doing that. The sum of what you are doing with Skinner, does it help you translate to maybe running that operation better, more efficiently?
That's a fair question. I think what I would say to you is that I've just been operating so smoothly for so long as an independent artist. Um, there's not too much that surprises me anymore. There's not too much that rattles me. There's always going to be some challenge. When you least expect it, something's coming. There's a cancellation, or somebody gets sick, or somebody steals the trailer, which they just did last month. Thankfully,
Wow.
there was no gear in it, but you know, um, the operation of Brother Kane is going really smooth because again, I've just been doing my independent solo thing for so long, Sean, and I just kind of do the same thing. I treat Brother Kane the same way, and most of the guys in Brother Kane now are my buddies from Nashville that have been playing in my solo band almost for the last 10 years. So there's a familiarity, there's a connection, a little more of an emotional connection. I mean, these are my friends, man. And, we all hang out together for fun, not just when we're doing gigs.
Well, I mean, and that's going to be, and so you're doing playing with Skinner, you're playing to these huge crowds, and then and I'm not saying it's a step down, but it's got to be pretty neat to, there's a band that you said, from the mid '90s on was on the radio all the time. It's got to be fulfilling again to be able to see that still have legs and still, have people want to see it and go to shows.
It is fulfilling and it is a lot of fun. And I'm so grateful for those Brother Kane fans that have voiced their enthusiasm nonstop ever since we disbanded in 2000. And and also, man, I don't have any unreasonable expectations. Yes, the crowds are way smaller, you know, and that's okay. Look, we know that. What we're trying to do is let people know that Brother Kane is back. It exists again. It's not just a band that's on Spotify that you tell your friends, oh, remember these guys, or you should check this out. So we're celebrating all of that great music we made in the 90s. We got two brand new, awesome songs that I'm super, super excited about and happy with and thrilled that they turned out as great as they did. And we're going to keep moving this forward. I'm going to continue to write. We're going to make some more recordings. I'd love to put a full length out at some point, you know. I'm a fan of the new business model of doing one or two songs at a time, getting it on the streaming platforms, and then go do some shows. You know, not put out the effort or the expense to make a full record because there is no record label. I'm the record label. So right. If we're going to go in the studio and record, you know, I'm going to have to write a check, and I'm okay with that. But it's nice to kind of break it up, do a little bit at a time.
Absolutely. So look, and here's something that I didn't do because it pretty much everybody knows if you want to get picked up on any wire, the easiest way to do it, and I won't name any names I did earlier, you talk about backing tracks, and the latest thing now is singers are tuning down for singers' voices and what have you. So I'm going to avoid those topics. They've been done to death. What I do want to ask you is how my viewers can find out about what you're up to, both with Skynyrd, with your solo stuff, with Brother Kane, and where they're going to go to find out what's going on.
Yeah, man. Listen. DamonJohnson.com has been up and running very efficiently for over 20 years. It's a great place to go to find out everything I'm doing. But we have relaunched BrotherKane.com. There's a note for your working class listeners right there, Sean. I held on to that URL, BrotherKane.com, ever since the late 90s. My buddy called me, he says, hey, man, you need to keep paying that, you know, $8 a year to
there's a tip though. There's a tip, right?
Yeah, $8 a year, pay it to GoDaddy.com and keep that URL because you just never know. And then here we are, man. And so BrotherKane.com's got all the dates, it's got new merch, it's looking good, man. So it's pretty easy to find out what's happening.
That's amazing. And it would really suck to have to buy it off some 12-year-old gamer, right? If you Anyway, my friend, I want to thank you so much for doing this. It was very nice to meet you. We got her done. You know what? I have your contact info. I'll check in with you later another time, and maybe we'll do another visit just to see how you're making out. Because if you get new music out, I want to be definitely somebody that pushes it for you.
All right, on, man. Well, listen, we're dropping these two brand new songs October the 20th.
Oh, we'll look for those.
Excited to get those out to the fan base, and we've already we just worked those songs up in rehearsal last week, and I'm having a ball, man. So yeah, hopefully we can get up as far north as you guys are, and
that'd be fun, awesome. Man. That'd be fun. Thank you, sir. You have a great show.
Thank you, Sean.
Peace.
Thank you, buddy. All the best. Thank you.
You too.